You know, there's something fascinating happening in the AI world right now that most people aren't talking about. While everyone's still obsessing over OpenAI's latest updates and Anthropic's Claude improvements, there's this Chinese company called DeepSeek that just dropped something called Terminus, and honestly, it's making me question everything I thought I knew about the AI landscape. I remember when ChatGPT first came out, everyone assumed that the best AI would always come from Silicon Valley. American companies had the talent, the funding, the infrastructure. Chinese AI was seen as, well, let's be honest, knockoff territory. But then DeepSeek started releasing models that weren't just competitive. They were offering performance that rivaled GPT-4 at prices that seemed almost too good to be true. And now with Terminus, they've basically thrown down the gauntlet and said, the AI game has changed, whether you like it or not. So what exactly is Terminus, and why should you care? Well, it's the latest iteration from DeepSeek, technically called v3.5, and it's not just another incremental update. This thing represents a fundamental shift in how AI models work. Instead of just being a really good chatbot, Terminus operates as what they call a hybrid reasoning system. Think of it as having an AI assistant that doesn't just know things, but can actually go out and do things. It can search the web, write and execute code, analyze data, and chain together multiple tools to solve complex problems, all in a single conversation. I've been testing this thing extensively, and I have to admit, it's pretty impressive. With DeepSeek, most other models, I find myself breaking down complex tasks into smaller pieces, explaining each step. With Terminus, I can throw a complicated request at it, and it actually figures out the strategy, breaks down the problem itself, and executes the solution. It's like the difference between having a smart intern who needs detailed instructions versus having a senior colleague who just gets it. But here's where it gets really interesting. One of the biggest problems with previous Chinese AI models was language consistency. You'd be having a perfectly normal English conversation, and suddenly the model would inject random Chinese characters or switch languages mid-sentence. It was frustrating enough that many developers just avoided these models entirely. Terminus has largely solved this problem. In my testing, the output has been remarkably stable and consistent. This might sound like a small thing, but if you're building production applications, consistency isn't just nice to have, it's absolutely critical. The real breakthrough, though, is in what they call their agent system. Terminus has two primary agents that work together seamlessly. There's the code agent, which can write, debug, and optimize code across multiple programming languages, and the search agent, which can find and synthesize information from across the web. But here's what makes this different from other tool-using AI systems. These agents don't just know how to use tools, they understand when and why to use them. The benchmarks tell the story pretty clearly. On BrowseComp, which measures a model's ability to perform multi-step web searches and information synthesis, the old v3.1 scored a respectable 30 points. Terminus jumped that up to 38.5. That's not a marginal improvement. That's a significant leap that suggests the model has fundamentally better reasoning about tool use. Similarly, on Terminal Bench, which tests command line and system interaction capabilities, scores improved from 31.3 to 36.7. These improvements matter because they represent the difference between an AI that can technically use tools and one that actually understands how to use them effectively. Now, DeepSeek hasn't abandoned their dual-mode architecture, which I think is actually one of their smartest design decisions. They still maintain two distinct operational modes. There's DeepSeek Chat, which they call the non-thinking mode. This is optimized for straightforward conversations, function calling, JSON outputs, and all the lighter computational tasks. It caps out at 8,000 tokens of output, defaulting to 4,000, which keeps things fast and cost-effective. Then there's DeepSeek Reasoner, the thinking mode that kicks in for complex, multi-step problems. This mode can generate up to 64,000 tokens of output, defaulting to 32,000, giving it space for deep analysis and complex reasoning chains. Both modes can process up to 128,000 tokens of context in a single interaction. To put that in perspective, that's roughly equivalent to 300 to 400 pages of text that the model can consider all at once. It's not the largest context window available, Grok claims 2 million tokens, and Google's Gemini 2.5 Pro offers 1 million. But for most practical applications, 128K is more than sufficient. What's really clever is how the system handles request. Routing. If you send something to the reasoner mode but the task actually requires tool use, it automatically gets routed back through the chat model. This kind of intelligent request handling shows a level of systems thinking that goes beyond just building a better language model. The performance improvements across the board are pretty remarkable when you look at the detailed benchmarks. Simple. QA, which tests basic factual accuracy, improved from 93.4 to 96.8 points. SWE Verified, which measures software engineering capabilities, went from 66 to 68.4. The multilingual version of the MMLU benchmark climbed from 54.5 to 57.8, showing better performance across languages. Even on broader reasoning tests like GPQA Diamond, which covers graduate-level science questions, there was improvement from 80.1 to 80.7. And on humanities' last exam, a particularly challenging benchmark, scores jumped from 15.9 to 21.7. But here's where it gets honest. It's not a straight win across every dimension. Codeforces, which measures competitive programming skills, saw a slight decline from 2091 to 2046. Some other coding-heavy benchmarks also took small hits. This tells us something important about DeepSeek's design philosophy. They've made deliberate trade-offs, prioritizing consistency and agent performance over raw coding speed. In my experience, this is actually the right choice. In real-world applications, reliability and the ability to handle complex, multi-step tasks consistently is far more valuable than shaving a few milliseconds off code generation. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room: pricing. This is where things get really interesting, and frankly, where DeepSeek is completely disrupting the entire AI industry. Their API pricing stays at 7 cents per million input tokens for cache hits, 56 cents per million for cache misses, and 1.68 per million output tokens. Let me put this in context for you. GPT-4 costs around $10 per million output tokens. Claude Opus 4 is $75 per million output tokens. We're not talking about being slightly cheaper here. We're talking about being 6 to 45 times less expensive while delivering comparable performance. This isn't just competitive pricing. This is market disruption on a scale we haven't seen since the early days of cloud computing. With the same budget you'd spend on a modest GPT-4 deployment, you could run Terminus at massive scale. And here's the kicker: it's completely open source under an MIT license. You can download it, modify it, use it commercially, build products around it, whatever you want. You don't often see this combination of competitive performance and complete freedom to use and modify. For developers and companies, this represents a fundamental shift in the economics of AI deployment. Suddenly, applications that were economically unfeasible with premium models become not just possible, but profitable. Startups that were burning through their funding on API costs can now build sustainable businesses. Large enterprises can deploy AI at scale without watching their budgets explode. But let's address the concerns that everyone's thinking about, but might not want to voice directly. Like other Chinese AI models, DeepSeek's outputs are subject to state censorship when it comes to politically sensitive topics. This isn't speculation, it's documented reality. In certain contexts, the model will produce responses that align with Chinese government positions on controversial subjects. Now, I'm not here to make political judgments, but as technologists and users, we need to understand these limitations. What's particularly interesting is that there have been discussions in the United States about implementing similar restrictions on American AI models. The regulatory landscape around AI is evolving rapidly, and what we're seeing might be the beginning of a global trend toward more government oversight of AI outputs. From a purely technical perspective, these censorship filters can sometimes interfere with the model's reasoning pathways, potentially affecting performance on certain tasks. In my real-world testing, Terminus shows both impressive strengths and some interesting limitations. When I asked it to generate a SaaS landing page, it produced well-structured code with multiple sections, animations, and professional features that were genuinely better than what I got from the earlier v3.1 version. For financial planning prompts, It built comprehensive retirement strategies that took into account inflation effects, tax implications, and multiple scenario planning, the kind of thorough analysis that would typically require multiple back-and-forth exchanges with other models. But there were some puzzling inconsistencies. When I asked it to generate simple SVG code for a butterfly design, something the older v3.1 had handled perfectly, it failed multiple times, producing rough shapes that didn't quite work. Yet in the same session, it successfully built a functional 3D Minecraft clone. Basic, sure, and with some bugs like characters occasionally falling through the map, but complete with block placement, destruction mechanics, and even sound effects. For raw code generation straight from an LLM, that's genuinely impressive. What's particularly noteworthy is how different providers seem to get different quality results. Some reviewers found that using third-party routing through services like OpenRouter actually gave stronger, more structured answers than DeepSeek's own chatbot interface. This suggests there might be some optimization opportunities in how the model is deployed and accessed. From a technical standpoint, the improvements in Terminus come from substantial investments in both data and methodology. The model was trained with an additional 840 billion tokens compared to v3.1, but more importantly, they implemented a completely new tokenizer and updated prompt templates. This isn't just about throwing more data at the problem. They've refined both the quality of the training data and the underlying scaffolding that shapes how the model processes and responds to information. There are still some technical issues that need addressing. The self-attention output projection parameter doesn't yet conform to the UE8M0FP8 scale data format, which DeepSeek has acknowledged and promised to fix in future releases. This might not affect end users, but for developers looking to optimize performance or host the model themselves, it represents a real limitation. The updated demo code provided on Hugging Face makes local deployment easier, and many developers are already self-hosting Terminus to reduce dependence on DeepSeek's servers. This brings up an interesting point about the broader ecosystem. One of OpenAI's biggest advantages has always been the rich ecosystem of third-party tools, integrations, and community resources built around their models. DeepSeek is still in the early days of building this kind of ecosystem, but the MIT license is accelerating adoption. Developers can freely build commercial tools and services around Terminus without worrying about licensing restrictions or revenue-sharing agreements. The geopolitical implications of Terminus extend far beyond just another AI model entering the market. This represents a clear statement about AI sovereignty and technological independence. China isn't just competing in the AI space, they're demonstrating that they can lead in critical areas like cost efficiency and open development while maintaining competitive performance. This creates some challenging questions for the industry as a whole. Can Western AI companies justify premium pricing when alternatives offer similar capabilities at a fraction of the cost? Will AI development become a race to the bottom on pricing, or will we see market segmentation based on specific use cases and requirements? How will national security considerations affect enterprise adoption of foreign AI technologies? From an enterprise perspective, the decision to adopt Terminus involves weighing significant cost savings against potential risks and limitations. The cost advantages are undeniable. Companies could potentially reduce their AI infrastructure spending by 80–90% while maintaining comparable functionality. The open-source nature provides flexibility and control that many organizations find appealing, especially those operating in cost-sensitive markets or developing regions. However, there are legitimate concerns beyond just political censorship. Supply chain risks become relevant when geopolitical tensions affect technology access. Compliance challenges arise in regulated industries where data governance and model provenance matter. Community support, while growing, isn't yet as mature as what's available around established platforms like OpenAI's ecosystem. What I'm seeing in practice is a quiet but significant shift among startups and mid-sized companies who are piloting Terminus specifically to address cost pressures. Large enterprises remain more cautious, but the economic pressure is real, and it's only a matter of time before someone in the C-suite asks why they're paying premium prices for comparable performance. The broader AI landscape is shifting in ways that go beyond any single model release. We're moving from an era of AI monopoly toward a genuinely competitive marketplace where innovation and efficiency matter more than brand recognition. Terminus isn't just challenging existing models on performance, it's fundamentally challenging the business models that the entire AI industry has been built on. Looking forward, there are already rumors circulating about DeepSeek v4 being in active development, along with a potential successor to their R1 model, presumably called R2. Some analysts have suggested that DeepSeek might be hitting scaling limitations with their current approaches, but given the pace of improvements we've seen and the resources they're investing, I think it's safe to say they're far from done innovating. The community response has been particularly interesting to observe. Developer forums are buzzing with discussions about deployment strategies, optimization techniques, and creative applications that take advantage of Terminus's unique combination of capabilities and cost-effectiveness. There's a palpable sense that we're witnessing a democratization of advanced AI capabilities that was previously limited to well-funded organizations. What strikes me most about Terminus is how it represents a maturation of the AI field beyond the early dynamics of a few dominant players setting the rules for everyone else. Competition is driving innovation in directions that benefit users. Better performance, lower costs, more open development models, and increased focus on practical utility rather than just impressive demonstrations. The implications extend beyond just the technology itself. Educational institutions can now afford to deploy advanced AI for research and teaching. Developing countries can build AI-powered applications without prohibitive infrastructure costs. Small businesses can compete with larger organizations by leveraging the same advanced AI capabilities that were previously available only to those with massive budgets. Of course, this democratization comes with its own challenges. The same affordability and accessibility that enables positive applications also makes these tools available for less benevolent uses. The open-source nature, while promoting innovation, also means less control over how the technology is deployed and used. But perhaps most importantly, Terminus demonstrates that the future of AI isn't predetermined by any single country or company. Innovation is happening globally, often in unexpected places, and the competitive dynamics are forcing everyone to up their game. Whether you're excited about this development or concerned about it, one thing is clear. The AI landscape will never be the same. The bottom line is this. Terminus represents the inflection point in AI development. It proves that world-class AI doesn't have to be expensive, that open-source models can compete directly with the best proprietary solutions, and that the center of AI innovation is expanding beyond its traditional boundaries. For developers, businesses, and users, this creates unprecedented opportunities. For the established AI industry, it creates unprecedented challenges. My advice: take Terminus seriously. Test it for your use cases. Understand its capabilities and limitations. The AI world is changing rapidly, and this is just the beginning. Whether Terminus specifically becomes the dominant model or not, the principles it represents, high performance, low cost, open development, are reshaping the entire industry. And honestly, that's probably the best thing that could happen for all of us who depend on AI to build the future we want to see. The revolution isn't coming, it's already here. The question isn't whether the AI landscape will change, but how quickly you'll adapt to the new reality it's creating.